How you guys doing today? This is Darius and Dot on the TV. Welcome to the channel. So today I wanted to go over and create a new series called The Elephant in the Room, which is basically the unspoken truth that no one's talking about when they say, oh, the elephant in the room. So today I want to talk about the elephant in the room on why the white demographic replacement is happening, why the white birth rates are low, why the white population is dying in the West. And the truth is, white women don't want to have kids with white men. That's the elephant in the room. They don't want to have kids with white men. They rather have kids with black men, Indian, Pakistani, everyone except white men. They rather have sex with dogs than have kids with the majority of white men. That's the elephant in the room. And this is due to women voting. I'm going to say it again. White women do not want to have kids with white men due to them being allowed to vote. Now, why would I say that? Women are basically like children. Women have chaotic natures. Carl Jung talks about the masculine psyche, which is the animus, which is the masculine principle in the female psyche, which is the father archetype that women envision. This is why women call their man sometimes daddy, because men are meant to be the father figures for women, to keep them safe, to guide them in life so they feel safe and secure. When white men gave women the right to vote, this opened Pandora's box. And just like a kid who stays up late at night and eats candy and eats ice cream and cookies and cakes, they go wild. They have no limit in their desires, because essentially women want you to spank them and discipline them, tell them no, give them boundaries. White men have took away women's boundaries. White men have no more boundaries for white women or women in general. Now white women are actively against white men. They're not having kids with them. And a lot of the alt-right, like Nick Fuentes and all these alt-right guys, are talking about white demographic replacement. But they're not talking about their women. They're talking about the Muslims coming in and the Africans coming into Europe, causing crime and rape in the UK. But they're not talking about their white women not doing their part in having white babies. They completely don't talk about that part, which is very interesting. Because when I look at the fertility rates of most of Europe, it's all below replacement. You need a fertility rate of 2.1 to just tread water to replace your current population. Germany, the fertility rate's at 1.58, Poland 1.3, Ukraine 1.1, but that's due to war. Like all these Western and Eastern European countries, the fertility rate is below replacement. That means they're dying. And eventually in 100 years, the population is going to collapse. And the economy can't run off a shrinking population. It will collapse because it needs a tax base. And if it's mostly just elderly people in the country and not enough young people to support the elderly, the system's going to collapse. Well, a lot of people are like, well, we're going to flood the country with illegals. They'll be our workers. Well, the problem is the Muslims and the Africans in Europe are not assimilating. They're committing crime, they're raping, they're not assimilating to European culture. They're actually subverting it aggressively. And they're outbreeding you. So eventually the Muslims are going to outnumber you just by them having more kids than you, because Europeans are too selfish. The women don't want to have kids. The men are too weak to make the women have kids. So the white population is dying while the Muslim and African population is rising. Naturally, the Muslims don't have to fight the European armies. They're going to take over by sheer numbers, by them having kids and babies. While the white men are complaining about, oh, race war, you need to be making your women have kids, get them back in the kitchen, kick them out of the workforce and college temporarily until each white woman has 3 to 5 kids minimum. before they can go back to work and go to college. Because college and work will always be there. Work isn't even fun. Women want to go to work because they want to have some sense of purpose. But we stopped valuing motherhood. We started devaluing it when it's a very important job in itself. You don't need to work for a corporation who doesn't love you and doesn't care about you. They'll fire you in a minute. So white men want to do a race war that they're going to lose because the majority of white men are scared of their wives. Muslims have nothing to lose. They're willing to kill themselves over a scarf, a hijab. White men have too much to lose because of consumerism. Oh, I don't want to risk everything because of my job. This is why you're a slave. Muslims are free. They're willing to die over the Quran, over the smallest things. White men are too afraid to even tell their woman to stop cheating on them. Think about that. These guys are thinking backwards. They're thinking big politics when they should be thinking locally in the house. Control your house first, and then everything else will work itself out. See, the Muslims don't worry about politics. They make sure to keep their woman covered up and having babies. And they're going to eventually run the politics later on. They're playing the long game. See, your white women are voting for the politicians that's flooding your borders. Maybe you should kick women and stop having them voting. Maybe you should start there. Kick them out of the workforce in college temporarily and make them have at least 3 to 5 kids, white babies. Then they can work and go to school if they want. But a lot of white guys want to have a race war, and this is why they're losing the culture war. Because you're dying and complain about your dying culturally, but you're not doing anything about it. Oh, they're going to be like, oh, but you're not doing anything. I don't have to do nothing. I'm not white. There's going to be plenty of brown skinned people like me. So I'm not worried globally. Even though I don't want to see white culture die. But white men have to take white women's voting rights away because women are not meant to vote. This is why our forefathers didn't allow women to be involved in matters of the state. They were involved in matters of the home, but not involved in matters of the state in politics because women have chaotic natures like children. So they have no limit. What do women value? What in these politics do women complain about? Climate change and abortion. That's their main things. Climate change and abortion. Killing kids and controversial climate change, whether it's affecting the earth or not. Stupid things that don't really matter long term. They're not thinking about inflation. They're not thinking about rental prices. They're thinking about abortion and all degenerate other things that don't matter. Thinking about a country, Palestine, that they never even visit and don't care about. So this is why it's important that white guys have to get their women in check. That's really the elephant in the room. If they get their woman in check, then they won't have to worry about white population decline, demographic replacement. All that stuff won't even happen. But due to them being weak, not being able to stand up to their woman because they're afraid because they're going to lose their house, their car, their job if they put their foot down because the wife will call the cops. That's your fault. It's your fault because you allowed them to vote. And you won't even help your fellow man if he gets in trouble because you're afraid to lose something. The Muslims stick together. They don't allow the cops, the UK cops, to come into their place and dictate what's in their household. The Muslims stand together and they riot with each other if some injustice is done that's outside of the local community's decisions. So white men need to stop being capitalistic and consumerist and start being small community minded. So get out of the big cities, go back to the countryside, build white communities, start small, because the government's going to do what it wants. But you can control your household. And then if everybody else does the same thing, you can protect each other from the tyranny of the government. But anyways, I just wanted to come in here just to just talk about that little elephant in the room. Basically, white guys are thinking backwards. Your white women are against you actively. They have the little welcome refugee sign. And then the next day, the same refugees are raping them. Women don't think long term. Men have always thought long term because we're built differently. Women live in the moment because they have to deal with children who are chaotic, who live in the moment. Men have to be the long term thinkers, not women. This is why women were not involved in matters of the state and finance, because women are terrible at managing money and they're terrible long term thinkers. They're terrible at it. So, anyways, if you want to save the white population, take white women's voting rights away, kick them out the workforce in college, and then have arranged marriages and make sure that every white woman has 3 to 5 kids, and then they can work and go to college. Only then, because work in college will always be there, but your fertility rate won't. Or the system will collapse. And then if the system collapses, then women will be slaves because gangs will take over in a collapse scenario in the military. And then nobody will have rights. So we can go that route too. Or the smart men will just go overseas and go to a country where they don't have to worry about this. But anyways, this is Darius from Down TV. Thank you so much for watching.